A very hi to all the viewers. One who rules the blue, rule the planet blue. This is an statement by me, but the theory has been given by Alfred Mahan, who says the one who rules the sea would rule the world. This is an important geopolitical theory in international relations. So, this topic of China Taiwan conflict deals with GS paper 2 international relations. Friends, nowadays our ears has been kept on buzzing with the sound of China, Taiwan and US tensions. A potential visit of Taiwan by the US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is becoming a problem to President Joe Biden's action. Beijing, which claims sovereignty over the island, has already issued a harsh warning, even suggesting a possible military response to the US. Nancy Pelosi to be the highest ranking officials to visit Taiwan in 25 years since 1997. This has enraged China that it has started Navy Army drill across the sea coast of Taiwan. In spite of Taiwan being a democratic government with being an election and many more symbols of being a republic government, why China still consider Taiwan to be its mainland? What is the geostrategic position of Taiwan that China has always been so desperate to unify Taiwan? And as China is becoming more powerful, it is becoming much more impatient to include or to unify Taiwan into its mainland. If China tries to take Taiwan by force, it will lead a war with America. These are two nuclear power states. They can lead to world war. Is Taiwan part of China? And all such questions regarding what is One China principle and One China policy, what is the genesis of China-Taiwan tensions, where do we go from here, what has changed now, how do we go from here, and most and foremost important regarding our examinations perspective, India's One China stand and relations with Taiwan. These all questions we are going to cover in this video. I will take you 200 back and I will start from there so that you could understand and you could relate the topic from the history's perspective and history point of view to the present escalation. Now we will see first how history is shaped by ideologies, and then we would see in detail this is the whole game of difference in ideologies that had led to the China, that People's Republic of China which is now, and the Republic of China which is Taiwan. So there is a conflict between ideologies which led to this ongoing dispute since the beginning till present. Now there was a king's ruling dynasty. This was the final imperial dynasty in China which lasted from 1644 till 1911 AD. In 1683, China's Qing dynasty annexed Taiwan. Slowly, with prolonged year, this dynasty started weakening, resulting further disintegration, as we could see in the map that this was the empire of the Qing's dynasty from 1644 to 1911, and this was the final imperial dynasty in China that lasted from 1644 to 1911. In 1683, this dynasty took over Taiwan, which is here. Now slowly, by the passing of the year, this King's dynasty started weakening, which led to the disintegration of the whole of the China. This China started disintegrating into several provinces. Now taking the advantage of the weakening of the King's dynasty, Japan attacked during 1894 to 95 and captured this part of eastern China, Taiwan, and it is not showing here, Korean plateau. Then a treaty was signed which called as Treaty of Shimonoseki. Under this treaty, China seceded eastern China to Japan and whole of Taiwan came under the rule of Japan, and Japan also took over Korean plateau. So under the Treaty of Shimonoseki 1895, Taiwan was taken over by the Japan. As we could see here that this is a treaty of Shimonoseki, in which this was Japanese empire, and this was the Korean plateau, and Taiwan and eastern portion of China was taken over by the Japanese empire. Now the seed of democracy started under the leadership of Sun Yat-sen, first time in the China. Sun Yat-sen was the first provincial president of the Republic of China and first leader of the Kuomintang, which is called the Nationalist Party of China. He is also called the father of the nation of the Republic of China. And he was the forerunner of the revolution for his role in overthrowing the Qing's dynasty through Xinghai Revolution. And he has the vision of unified China. His three principles were nationalism, right of the people, and welfare, which is called democracy. So under his command, rule by the people or the democracy have started coming into being in China. But as he could see his vision to be get completed, a sudden demise in 1925 led to the division in his ideology. This division called Nationalist Party, which favored people's right, who wanted democracy, under the command of Chiang Kai-shek. Another important leader was Mao Zedong, who favored state control and hardcore communist, whose ideology was that the state should have the supreme control, and he was basically supported by peasants, Red Army, and this Mao Zedong was supported by the Stalin, USSR. This Mao Zedong has a prominent role in northwestern part of the China, whereas the Chiang Kai-shek had the southwestern part of the China, which is this part. Chiang Kai-shek has a support of the US because he followed the liberal policy of the USA at that time. So now here we can say that there was an ideological divide. Since USSR was a complete communist, so he supported, or Stalin supported, Mao Zedong, whereas USA supported Chiang Kai-shek, who followed his ideologies, which is of people's right, or what we called as democracy. Now here we have seen that internal war between the ideologies of the two leaders have started taking place. Now you can see that this is a picture of Chiang Kai-shek and the Mao Zedong. This is Chiang Kai-shek and this is Mao. Now we can see here that as I have mentioned earlier, that the history is shaped by ideologies. Boundaries are set by the conflict in ideologies. So now here a complete difference in the ideologies have started, which in turn led to the present situation of which China and Taiwan are in. Now as the internal struggle started between the two parties, which is the national parties of Chiang Kai-shek and the Communist Party of the Mao Zedong, there was a civil war and followed by a Shanghai massacre, in which the followers of the Nationalist Party or the followers of the Chiang Kai-shek started killing the followers of the Mao Zedong of the Communist Party in huge amount. Thereby, Japan took advantage of this civil war and captured this portion, which is called the Manchurian Plateau, in 1939. But very soon in World War II, when Japan was badly defeated, it left China. Then the communist leader Mao met Russian leader Stalin, because the ideologies of the USSR, which is communist, and that of the Mao was same. So now here the Nationalist Party was backed by, of Chiang Kai-shek, was backed by US. So Chiang Kai-shek has a huge support of USA because both were on the line of democracy, and here Mao had the support of Stalin. So as we have seen that after World War II, the world started getting bipolar. There was a Cold War. So as the whole world was divided in between two ideologies, the Stalin took this as opportunity to establish the communist rule in the whole of China. So Stalin badly supported Mao. So in 1946 to 1948, communist leader started killing nationalist leader, and Chiang Kai-shek hid on the eastern bank of China, which is here, like nationalist. This is the portion of nationalist which is under the command of Chiang Kai-shek, and the red is of the People's Republic of China under the command of Mao. When the internal struggle started, this nationalist party fled over here. So the Chiang Kai-shek have hidden in the eastern bank of China. In 1949, this is the map of 1949 to 1954 of China. In 1949, China officially declared itself as the communist under the command of Mao Zedong. So the rest portion is of People's Republic of China, and nationalist ideologies people including Chiang Kai-shek fled towards the Taiwan. So they fled and they got sheltered in the Taiwan region. So now the nationalist party under the command of Chiang Kai-shek called their region as Republic of China, and the China under the command of Mao Zedong called as People Republic of China, PROC. So the Taiwan which we could see at present is Republic of China. If you see the website of the Taiwan government, you will see that it is written over here that Republic of China. It was this of Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist party who established Republic of China, which was the democratic, who wanted democracy. So this was all about the communist Mao said the original China as Republic of China and claimed to be the original China, which is the communist rule. So now we could see, and now we could very well relate that the ideological difference of that of the democracy or liberalism to that of the state rule, which is communist, have led to People's Republic of China as well as Republic of China. Now we have seen that Chiang Kai-shek have fled to Taiwan in 1949. Here the group started ruling Taiwan, and there was a nationalist party ruled Taiwan for 50 years until a full-fledged elections held in the year 2000 of multi-party. So since then Taiwan was backed by US, and in 1949 to 1975 United Nations gave Taiwan the statehood recognition and a seat in United Nations. After what had happened in 1971, I would let you know shortly. Now slowly, the fate of the People's Republic of China have started changing in the international forum. By the time of 1971, People's Republic of China, which is now the main China, became very powerful and need of the Western world. And Mao's Chinese became an increasing strategic importance to America during the US-Soviet Cold War. As China was the brainchild of the USSR's communism ideology, the Chiang Kai-shek's influence diminished. And the second in command leader after Mao, who was Deng Xiaoping, rose as an important leader who had a slight tilt towards the liberalism as compared that of the hardcore Mao's communist. And he believed that China should be economic power. In order to flourish, he should be economic power, and in order to become an economic power, there should be some liberal ideologies that can make China a economic powerful state. In order to become powerful, China first needs to be economic powerful. So he had a slight tilt towards the economic liberalism. So here USA saw this as an opportunity to support Deng Xiaoping, who is going to rule after 1979. USA saw this as an opportunity to support Deng Xiaoping in diluting USSR's influence. So now America, an important turn in the history of Taiwan. In the year 1971, America allowed United Nations resolution to recognize Mao's People Republic of China as the one and the only China. And after years of secret talks in 1979, Washington shifted its diplomatic recognition from Taiwan's capital to or Taipei to Beijing. So from here now onwards, the One China principle became a bedrock of the communist regime. So this is what is One China principle, which means that there is only one China, including Taiwan, which is People's Republic of China. So now here USA officially gave recognition to Mao's China as only one China. And in same year 1971, United Nations took away Taiwan's statehood recognition as Republic of China and gave its seat to People's Republic of China. So we have seen that the Taiwan statehood was taken over and that seat was given to the People's Republic of China, which is PROC. So we have seen that in international politics, in relation, equation matters. So this was a lesson to Taiwan to be learned at this particular movement, and from here Taiwan took its fortune in its own hand, and we would see further how Taiwan grew economically. So with this statement, Taiwan learned that the weak gets the sympathy and the strong gets the support. However, the nationhood of Taiwan was taken back, but unofficially, however, there was a strong sympathy in the West for Taiwan. However, America did not give a strong promise to Taiwan, but still, America definitely feels to protect Taiwan no matter at what cost. So now Taiwan stand growing on its own feet through economic growth. From agriculture economy to rapid industrialization in 1980, and in 1980s the export boomed. The economic growth surged on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. Now here, how come People's Republic of China could sit silent? Now China and Taiwan let down their barriers. As both economies began to catch up, Chinese leaders began to find a way to break Taiwan resistance to merge with mainland China. And it was the start of a long-term policy to grow Taiwan through economic influence. Now the China's government saw this as a phenomenal useful opportunity to make the two economies so integrated that it will be economically suicidal for any government in Taiwan to try to come into a kind of confrontation with China, which would therefore require the government in Taiwan to accept some form of unification with China. Now you could see that as the China became more powerful, its dream of unification of Taiwan with that of the main China land became much more stronger. How come this possible? Chinese started direct flight, direct ferries, direct shipping, and huge interconnection between two economies. But as the Taiwan grew economically, political development parallelly started becoming much more healthier. Political reform in 1980s led to the birth of Democratic Progressive Party. So now Taiwan is a multi-party system. So this DPP, which is Democratic Progressive Party, in September 28, 1986 is formed, who supported an independent Taiwan. So now you can see that as the mighty China wants to grab Taiwan into their mainland, the more of the Taiwans resist of not merging up with the main China land. So this tug of war is equal on each side. So this tug of war has equal force towards each side. So just 2 years later, progressive leader Li Teng, who is called Mr. Democracy, becomes president of Taiwan. And in 1991, Taiwan's first democratic elections held within a decade, Taiwan became a full-blown true democracy, and the people in Taiwan are extremely proud of their democracy, and which helped to define their sense of identity. So this election defined their sense of identity. Now in 1996, China used its military might to threaten Taiwan, and from then onwards, the China had a missile test at the coast of the Taiwan to frighten Taiwanese into not voting the Li Ting, who is a pro-Taiwanese figure. Now, with this, America responded with the biggest display of military might in Asia since the Vietnamese War. So this made China to stop American force assisting Taiwan. But China's attempt to meddle in Taiwanese affair continue. And in 2005, China passed anti-secessionist law. Now this is a very bold step by China, and if you see the act in this law, that China specifically mentioned that ROC is the part of People's Republic of China, and this is an internal issue. So this secessionist law claims Taiwan as the part of the China's mainland. And in 2014, the Sunflower Movement protest against a proposal of trade deal between Taiwan and the People's Republic of China took place. And in 2016, the seizing win. So for most of the people in Taiwan, they simply will not accept prospect of being part of a very hard authoritarian Leninist political system, whatever the economic benefits may be. So up to this point, the Chinese political ambition of unification has failed. So since 1990s, the growing proportionate of Taiwanese people see themselves as Taiwanese instead Chinese. So these views helped the Tsai Ing-wen, the pro-independence Democratic People's Party candidate, to win election in 2016 as the president of Taiwan in just 3 years. As voluntary unification look increasingly remote, China has only its military might to fall back on. So we have seen how China, from being economically powerful to military powerful, is on verge to become a world power with the conquest of Taiwan. And no doubt that China would use force against America if they come to aid Taiwan. Now we have seen the past history of Taiwan and China, and resolving the Taiwan question and realizing China's complete reunification is a historic mission and an unshakable commitment of Communist Party of China. Since 2020, China has routinely sent aircraft into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Meanwhile, between 2018 and 2020, President Xi dropped the word peaceful while referring to reunification with Taiwan, underlying his aggressive approach to territorial dispute everywhere. Now, I would like to make a point here that as the elections are approaching, President Xi is politically not very strong to come up again. So this is a kind of tactic to present or to portray himself as a powerful remain by taking strong steps towards Taiwan. So we have seen as Democratic Progressive Party candidates, Tsai Ing-wen was elected president, and under Tsai's administration, US-Taiwan relation warmed. In March 2018, Trump signed into law the Taiwan Travel Act, which allowed American officials to step up exchange with Taiwan. And over the last 6 years, the US approved multiple sales of arms. This is very important. Multiple sales of arms to Taiwan, including 108 M1A2T Abrams tanks, and then heavy equipment transporters, rocket launchers, sensors, artillery, and most important 66 F-16 Viper fighters jet. China view all this as US attempts to use Taiwan to contain the PRC peaceful rise, emboldening Taiwan's pro-independence separatist activities and impacting cross-strait harmony. So now the question arises as why China is so keen to annex Taiwan. Now there are many reasons, but mainly we can divide all the reasons into two parts. One is that of economic and the geostrategic position of Taiwan. Now, as we all know that Taiwan is a tiny island in the South China Sea. As you can see this map of South China Sea, we could see that South China Sea comprises of this red boundary. Starting from, we have Taiwan, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam. The East China comprises of South China Sea, and we could see that there are other small islands, and this is Luzon Strait, which separates Taiwan to Philippines, and there is, here we have Taiwan Strait, which separates two mainlands, which is Taiwan and China. So this South China Sea has a geopolitics and the geostrategic location, and this is one of the most important reason of the word this South China Sea, because 30% of the shipping passes through this trade route of the world, and this region comprises of $3.3 trillion of worth of trade in a year. Second, giant resources. The sea has 11 billion barrel of crude oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas buried under this specific economic zone. Therefore, it has a military advantages. It is so important that China has built small artificial island in these areas, and nevertheless the exclusive economic zone. If China acquires Taiwan, then it can increase its exclusive economic zone, which would in turn make China more powerful of what it is now. China is so keen in taking this route over that this region has it has placed military drill ships and artificial island. To claim South China Sea, this would get second upper hand over the region, the second most strategic in the world. Now the second reason is the economic reason, that why China want to annex Taiwan. It is because of the semiconductor economy. Now, as we know that semiconductors are very prominent component to be used in our daily affairs and routine. In every gadget, in every daily purpose, we use this integrated circuit boards. Now, China comprises of 6% of the semiconductor manufacturing industries. South Korea comprises 17% and other comprises 13%. And Taiwan only comprises of 63% of this manufacturing industries, which mainly feeds to major companies like Apple, Qualcomm and Nvidia. And these integrated circuits are the world most traded product. And in 2020, global trade was about $670 billion US. 1/5 of that comes from Taiwan. Between 2015 to 2020, export grew by 79%. So, the world largest chipmaker, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, which is called TSMC, holds 90% of the market for making advanced chip powering computers and phones. If China were to gain control over Taiwan, they would control 40% of the world chip export and essentially of the world most important industries. Economically, Taiwan is dependent on China as well as its biggest destination. China accounts for 28% of Taiwan's export, but BOP actually is much more positive as that of the Taiwan. So, because of its control over Taiwan could potentially give China an edge in the Western Pacific region, including closer to the US doorstep. So, now let us understand what is the present state of Taiwan in economic terms. Now, Taiwan focused on exports of electronics and digital machinery and produces world's largest contract-based electronic and computer firms called Quanta and Foxconn. Second, Taiwan is a strong capitalist, industrialist and export-driven economy. Third, Taiwan is being counted with among 4 Asian tigers because of her strong economic position, and 2 million military personnel are there in Taiwan army. So, Taiwan defense budget is more than 10 billion US dollar, which is equal to US in terms of percentage, and 1.5% of the population below poverty line is only 5.5% of the population is below poverty line. So, we could see that the world lowest poverty rate is there in the Taiwan. So, we could say that Taiwan does not have its statehood, but it cannot be overlooked. Now, let us understand why Taiwan is one of the most sensitive bone of contention between China and America. There are so many reasons, but first it could be that it is the responsibility of the US to defend Taiwan because of the reputation and power. Second is because of the ideologically they are same. These both are liberal democratic countries. Third, the defense pact that US signed with various islands like Japan and Taiwan etc., they would get offended. And other reasons that Taiwan is just one aspect of worsening geopolitical checkerboard between US and China. The Trump administration has opened more confrontation era in relations with China, and Biden has concretized this approach by signing the AQUAS trilateral security pact with UK and Australia and increasing Quad coordination with Japan, India and Australia to limit Beijing's influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, there are concerns in the Western world that China would carry out similar actions in Taiwan. Against this background, Speaker Pelosi's trip to Taiwan has led to some security scholars to predict a fourth Taiwan Strait crisis. So, in order to curb the China's influence in South China Sea, these AQUAS, Eagle Eye and Quad has formed, and recently Xi Jinping has recently made a statement in parliament that in the China's reservation, the semblance of Taiwan is necessary because these islands will compromise Chinese interest. This is another philosophy, and that shows that why China is much more desperate to take Taiwan into its mainland, because to establish a stronghold over the South China Sea. I hope I could able to make you understand this topic in much more greater detail and in a much more wider perspective. I hope you found this video informative. Please like and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much.